Good evening. I will at this time call to order the Scotland County Board of Commissioners Monday, February 1st, 2021 meeting. And I will start with our invocation, and Commissioner Whit Gibson will do for us.
If you'll bow your heads, please. Dear Father God, we thank you for your presence here with us this evening. We ask that you please be with us as we strive to provide leadership to our county and to make wise decisions on behalf of its citizens. We thank you for the work of the physicians and the healthcare workers and the volunteers and all involved in providing the vaccines. You know, it's been a difficult time and we've got a lot to go through and a long way to go, but at least we've got started down that path. We thank you for the blessings that you provide us each and every day and for the challenges that fortify our faith as we serve you and our community. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen.
If we'll please rise. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Next is our public forum. Jason, do you know of anybody?
No.
Okay, we don't have anybody here that wants to speak, so I will move to the consent agenda and ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
John Alpert, so moved.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Our next item up is Mark Ward, who will talk to us about an economic development project house. It is a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak for?
Careful, you do that.
Or
we need to
against the
approve
public
agenda.
hearing.
We need to do the approval of the agenda. We did the consent agenda, but we didn't do the agenda approval.
Yeah, we voted on the agenda.
No, it's the consent.
You skip from the pledge straight to the public forum.
I don't know.
You
We had the
did,
consent agenda.
but you did not approve the actual agenda, the actual approval of the agenda.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Sorry. Keep me straight. All right, now we are down to our public hearing for Economic Development Project House 1. Okay, there's no one here to speak for or against us, so I'll let Mark speak to us about this issue.
Okay, Project House 1 was announced in December. It is Huma Pharma. Huma Pharma makes poultry vaccines out on Skyway Church Road near at Lombard-Maxon Air Base. They received 3 incentives from the state. They received a building reuse grant incentive. They received a 1NC grant incentive, and they also received a grant incentive from NC Biotech. So those 3 incentives have to be approved and with a public hearing for the county to receive those funds and then the county to provide the funds to the company. It's a pass-through. We also approved or need to approve the county incentive portion for Project House 1 Huma Pharma, which is a tax grant. You'll see in your package that they will actually pay the taxes for all the improvements after they make and after they pay the jobs, when they pay their taxes. They will be granted a portion of that tax back after they show us evidence of all the qualifications made.
Okay, anybody have any questions for Mark?
On the
I
end,
do. Is there a time frame on when they have to honor the improvements and get the tax grant?
They have 3 years for the state grants before it expires. So their clock started ticking in January. Their plan is to have the improvements made and all the jobs hired by July, August of this year. They've already hired 2 of the jobs, so those will count. So once they meet the full investment and the job number, typically within 12 to 18 months, that's when they then have to pay the taxes, because this year they've made those improvements after January 1st. So they will not pay the tax on that improvement until 2022. So they cannot apply for the incentive until 2022 till we receive the taxes paid on that improvement.
I think under your agreement too, they're expected to perform within 3 years.
That is correct.
Similar.
That's right. Yeah, we also have that 3-year incentive agreement.
Do we need two actions on the state grant and our grant, or do we do it in one? What do you think would be
You
best?
can do it in one, that is totally y'all's.
What do you think, Mr. Johnson?
I think that's fine. I mean,
I do.
they're presented all in one package.
Right, okay.
You could have a motion to approve all three grants.
All right. Anybody have any more comments or questions? Tim, you do.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions, and because I took the wonderful time and read all 73 pages of this. I guess on the building reuse program, we list this as doing a loan from the county to them.
They
That
give
is
us
part
the
of
money.
procedure,
The state
Okay.
money that comes to us, I mean.
but it's still listed as a loan.
It's a clawback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Clawback. All the agreements are clawbacks to where they don't need it.
The other one was Exhibit H of the building reuse. It talks about secured or unsecured, and neither one of those are marked.
We had that conversation and, of course, with Mr. Ward, and of course, it's subject to the board's approval, but he indicated there was no, we're not gonna use the deed of trust. Of course, if the board preferred that, we could definitely prepare one.
On the larger loan amounts, that is something that we have normally taken into consideration and looked at. But this building reuse, I think that one is that the 50 or the 70,000?
70, I think.
That's right.
Yeah.
And on an $8 million property, they're doing $2 million worth of improvements from what they already done. Goodwill was you create the jobs, and then the building reuse. I mean, it's gonna be the state's gonna pay us, and we're gonna pay them back.
Well, if we put a deed of trust on there and they borrow money from someone else, we'll probably have to subordinate anyway, so.
Or they may not even get it if we were,
You know, what?
they may not get another loan if they, even with the subordination, they may not get it. Not
Maybe not,
necessarily,
with,
but
if they got $8 million worth of security there.
yeah, somebody will get that.
Yeah.
Incentive agreement. Well, no, I'm sorry. I want to go back to the 1NC fund. And it talks about the 10 county jobs and how to calculate that. And part of it's in the incentive agreement, part of it's in the One North Carolina fund. My big thing about this is that if we're gonna pay them, and just roughly calculating, it's about $1,500 a person. Because you base it off the 1.9
That's right.
million, and it's 0.1%, then divided out by 60. It's convoluted formula, but anyway, about $1,500 an employee, so $15,000. But what guarantee, or is there a guarantee, or can we put that guarantee that those 10 jobs are Scotland County jobs, not somebody from Dillon or Robinson County or Hope County? I mean, if we're gonna pay them for that, it seems like it should be residents.
State will not allow you to do that.
We've been down that road.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we are coming.
We all agree with you.
They're gonna pay tax, they're gonna pay state tax, state employment tax on those individuals. And for a 1NC, that's all the state cares about.
But that's coming from them though.
The 1NC is coming from the state, the building reuse is coming from the state. Ours is actually tax grant, so they're paying property tax to Scotland County, and then we're reimbursing them a percent of that tax that we collect.
I think you could put something into the effect that you have a preference, but you wouldn't be able to do something that's binding on that you would, you know, want to put it in the local incentives agreement, but.
I would hope we wouldn't have to tell them a preference that, I mean, to me, it's common sense, you know. if you
Well,
look
yeah,
at
I mean, it's
the,
clear.
even on the tax incentive part, that, I don't know, maybe you can say it in there, but I don't know.
I just don't think you can enforce it.
Yeah, I know, I just hate paying $15,000 for Robinson County to get.
I know.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, then I will entertain a motion. We have a motion to approve from Betty. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Whit Gibson. Any further questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you, Mark. All right, we'll hear from our manager on what we need to do about our March meeting and meetings after that, maybe.
Yes. At least for the March meeting, because we are currently having COVID vaccination clinics in the EOC. And it's the reason why we're meeting here tonight, specifically for the March meeting, likely for the April meeting, but we'll we can do that. We can do it 1 month at a time. Would like the board's permission to move the March meeting to this location.
You want action? You do that?
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Next item, just a quick update on Laurel Hill Community Center. Brian Graham has answered some questions back from our engineers. Our engineer architects on some final plans. They do expect to have construction documents back to the county by February 22nd, so 3 weeks, with bid documents prepared and ready to go out March 29th. And with that, they are looking at the bids would be hopefully voted on by this board in May with a June construction begin date. And with a June construction date, we are looking at 10 months of construction to go through March of 2022.
Is that it?
That is it.
All right.
Can we get the Dollar General crew to build that? They'll do it in 3 weeks.
This might be a little more complicated.
Or even the Biscuitville.
Bad thing of it is, I think they have them on a shelf somewhere. They just,
I think they get them at,
Show up at nighttime.
Maybe we can convert that Dollar
the
General.
parts come from IKEA,
yeah.
they're IKEA buildings. All right, Vice Chair Golston, you have an appointment for us tonight?
I have 2 appointments. I have Larry McGill, and he did not give any information about his background, and I hope that they will begin to give us something to go by. He didn't put anything down here but his address. He lives in Northburg. He wants to be on the ABC board,
Okay,
and I move that we accept him and appoint him to the ABC board.
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Isn't he on it now?
He's been on it once before. He had 1 term.
Okay.
Now, this lady here, Elizabeth Hernandez, wants to be on the library board, and she hasn't been served before. And you see her degree, that she has a BA in English, MA in English, EDS from Wingate, two kind of something, degrees, some kind of qualification from Wingate, and she seemed quite qualified, and she has, I think she works at St. Andrews. Is that what you said?
Mhm.
St.
I
Andrews.
think she's the new dean of students.
She is.
She said, yeah, she's the new dean of students at St. Andrews. Yeah.
Okay, so we're honored to have her on our board, and I move that we place her on the board.
Second.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Very good.
Madam Vice Chair, can I ask you, I brought this up last meeting, and I still don't understand it myself. I guess Mr. McGill knew that there was a vacancy because it was his vacancy. But like Ms. Hernandez, how would a citizen know? I've looked on the website, and the website to me doesn't point out that this board has a vacancy coming up at this time. How does that work?
Well, I'm gonna ask Jason, because I just started this, and I don't quite know. Jason, you explain.
Well, it usually, like I was going to tell y'all that I've been advised by the chairman of the Aging Advisory Council that there is a vacancy on that board because someone moved out of the county. And like Ms. Hernandez, someone that was already on the library board asked her to be on the library board. And that's how we get a lot of people. And that's the reason I'm telling y'all is we depend on y'all to tell people too, if you know someone, to put in an application.
But he said, is there any way to list that on the website,
Well,
that there is a vacancy?
I just don't think that the process we use is really open and transparent to the community. If the only way that I found out there's a vacancy is if somebody on the board reaches out to me, then that board is gonna generally look like the same people who are already on it because you're only talking to your friends.
Is there any way we can put some kind of, something on there to let people know that there is an opening on this particular board? Is there any way to do that? With
I
website?
could probably do something, just list vacancies
Yeah,
and then, have whatever board happens to have a vacancy and then link that to the, application.
The DSS board has on the website, it's an old vacancy, but something like that I think would help. It has on there that it has a vacancy, but it was like in 2018.
Yeah.
But it actually would denote that this board has a vacancy whenever it has one.
And like I said, I think I believe that and that one little ETJ vacancy on that planning and zoning board are the only vacancies that we have at the current time.
so, yeah, if you could put a slot there for that information, so people will know what is open,
Yeah.
and the other
And
person.
we don't have a lot.
We
No,
don't.
right now. No, not right now.
But we-
Thankfully, we have populated most of our boards.
Okay, so, it will be helpful for people to know, because, I ask people, would they please think about joining the community boards or whatever, and all the time, so, we will have to continue to do that, promote it. I don't know any other way we can get more interest, do you have anybody got any ideas how we can get more interest in people serving on these boards?
I've struggled with it for years, and for about a year, at every meeting, I would announce what vacancies we had on boards. And that produced some people coming on boards, and that's why most of our boards are filled right now. I'd say what year is this, 21? Through 2019, every meeting, I would say, we have a vacancy on blah, 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 and it would get reported, but then you're dependent upon the media to pick up and talk about it. But we got some members on boards, at least doing that. I think if Jason can post any vacancy when he learns of it on the website and through Facebook, I think that will go a long way in maybe letting people know. Yeah.
And did we say the last meeting that we write a letter when they get appointed to
Yes.
the board?
And I've
Okay,
I composed that letter and sent one to Mr. Cribb.
He got it.
Okay.
He made sure to tell me you got it.
So I'll be sending one to Ms. Hernandez and Mr. McGill.
okay. And the other lady that have applied for it, we do keep her name
Yeah.
on file that she can apply for
Should apply for which board.
the library board, but we have one opening.
So how do you determine who gets it out of
Well, we made a decision.
who?
I guess I did.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm just asking.
Okay.
I mean, there are two people.
I would have thought we'd have got both
Yeah.
halves, but that's.
Yeah, that's what they used to do, baby.
Yeah, what now?
They used to put both names in the board votes on.
Well, maybe I should have done it that way. I just didn't realize that. Maybe I should have done it that way. But I based it on the qualifications, I thought, but maybe that wasn't the fairest way to do it. Maybe I should, the next time, if the board wants to bring it, if it's more than one person, asking to be on the board, I bring it before the board and let the board decide which one they want. Is that what you want me to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I think, I like the conversation. I think all of these are good ideas. I think it would be good if you can put on the website when vacancies are coming up, not just, it's June 1st and we now have a vacancy.
Right.
But maybe in March, you would say that in April, May and June, these are the vacancies we know we're going to have. And if you kept that running, then there would always be kind of an announcement of places that people might look to see where they instead of seeing it and, I need to talk to my wife about it. By that time, somebody's already been appointed and it's gone.
And a lot of vacancies do come about July 1st.
Mhm.
A lot of our board's terms flip over July 1st, so we probably could do like you said and have the vacancies on the website and beginning in March or April. So people, yeah.
And I don't think it would be hard, Jason, for you to provide that to the board. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that being announced at this meeting.
Oh, with the vacancies?
Coming vacancies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have vacancies. I know that.
And even if we didn't do it each month, if you're gonna do it, tell them what the vacancies are gonna be for the next 3 months. If you did it every other month, you're gonna give people some notification.
Because I can remember over in the A.B. Gibson Center, reciting what vacancies that we still have. Yeah, absolutely.
Because for an example, these two, I would imagine that we would have heard this at least last month, that these boards were coming vacant. And then, you know what I mean? It makes it more transparent.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
These people will come, these boards will come, have a vacancy on the March meeting, you know.
And Jason may not say it, but I think Jason probably needs help from our board, because with the new committees that I have been appointed to, it's like pulling teeth for Jason to just gather the information. And most of that information, as I shared with you, Ms. Golster, is coming from employees. You know, that fire commission, you know, Jason said there wasn't a lot of information. So I'm meeting with Roland and another gentleman, Matt, who are gonna tell me about it. You know, what they know, but there's nothing formally put together that really talks about our boards.
Yeah, I know more about some boards than I do other boards.
Well, how can we do that? And how can we, the commissioners serve on every board, you know? How can we, have some kind of, information about their responsibility as a commissioner on certain boards? Is there any way for us to define that? Or is it necessary to define it? Is the commissioners, just like any other member of the board, you know, is there anything that we can say to the commissioners that you serve on this board, that this is your responsibility? What I'm trying to say.
As it noted in the Institute of Government, we appoint to a board, we just like the other board.
It's like other
Not
boards.
let you be the chairman.
We
Okay.
don't have any
Right.
other,
That's
No
it.
power.
You don't have any other power as a commissioner serve on these boards.
no.
Okay, then we probably need to have something that define each board, what their responsibility is, you know? What is the really responsibility of the Board of Health?
But I
And
depend
even
on
though
the
we
people.
know that
I
the
depend
Board
on
of Health makes
like
their
we
own
do that,
decisions somewhat.
tell me.
Well, they should have both. Well,
I would think that the health department would have their own, because the Board of Health,
Orientation.
Lord,
the appointments to the Board of Health are in statute.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're governed by
Yeah.
North Carolina General Assembly, as are the board members of the DSS.
Yeah.
Who they are and how, I mean, like the state appoints somebody to DSS, the county appoints two, and then the board appoints two more. That's all written out in general statute.
And the health board members come from different
And the health
professions.
board comes from different
They have to
professions.
come in different
So
positions.
that doesn't fall under our
But
jurisdiction.
what about
Which,
ABC?
let me give you an example.
Well,
I'm meeting with Roland and Matt
Yeah,
to talk about fire commission.
right.
Okay? Well, Roland is leaving. God forbid something happens to Jason and Matt. Where do you get the information from? Is what I'm saying. It needs to be, just the basic of it should be written in some type of handbook or something.
Would that be a policy position? Would that something policy?
No, I think that's the fire commissions. I think that falls back on the board itself to have some type of guidelines for the responsibilities of their members. Yeah, I really do.
But it falls back under our board ultimately to make those appointments.
We do have a list, and we can actually publish this list, but it's a list of all committee appointments with when they were appointed.
Now, that would take a little bit of research too.
Yeah, but,
Do you have expiration dates on it? Because most of those are
We
specific
do.
terms.
We do. have
yeah, so
some.
we,
That wagon just got loaded.
yeah, it would take time to go back in and say, because we know when they were appointed, but then we'd have to go back through and figure out
The list,
which term
the
everyone is
the
in.
list I have stopped in about 2017, something like that. So I have been able to cobble together some of them, but some of them still are not exact.
So I won't beat a dead horse, but let me ask you this. Who keeps up with, for example, Mr. McGill, that his term is up?
Well, he emailed, or he sent an application in, that comes to me.
So what if I decide at the end of my term, I don't say that?
Jason, I think Jason keeps that, doesn't he?
He has a list, but generally it is the board or the board chair.
Yeah.
Or whoever
Or
the
if they
board
have a staff
administrator
person, if
is,
they have a staff person.
let us know that they have a vacancy.
Like with the Board of Health, we were notified by the, Ms. Bean,
Yes,
that we had vacancies there.
What about ABC board? Who would notify you there?
Well,
the
talking
executive
about
director.
ABC board, ignorance question. Why don't we have a commissioner or two on the ABC board? We don't have any, that's the only board I know of, we don't have anybody on.
We have in the
We
past.
was
Appointed
not serving as commissioner, was it?
Last month, they just appointed Whit and, Carol.
To the ABC board?
Yeah.
No.
EDC.
ED.
They just
EDC,
okay.
EDC, yeah.
Well, Carol
Well, I
said
mean,
something about ABC board last month.
Well, Clarence, are you saying ABC or?
ABC.
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 You appointed Whit ABC board last month.
No, EDC.
You appointed the EDC or which was
Yes.
ABC?
The EDC has its own set of bylaws as to how members are appointed to that. The ABC board, I do not know.
I'm just curious,
And we
to
have
me,
had-
that's one of the biggest that we ought to be on.
How many, what, 3 members on that?
It's 3 members, and we've had commissioners on it. Bob
Calendar
Davis
manager
was,
Bob used to be on.
JD.
But he was not on as a commissioner.
But he was not on it
representative.
as a commissioner, because when we reappointed, I asked that.
did you?
You know, remember, because he was not gonna be here after December or
Right, I
November, and I
remember that.
said, well, I just wanna make sure Bob can keep going, is this a
I know that
commissioner?
JD was on it for a long time, but I don't know if he was on it as a commissioner or assistant. I don't know.
I think kind of slipped through our fingers, we just didn't, think to do that, but maybe we do need to put a commissioner
We
on
just need
that
to find
board.
out more about that board,
Well,
Tim.
yeah, we do need to find more.
There's not a requirement that a commission, there's not a statutory requirement that a commissioner serve on that.
It's been a practice.
It has been a practice.
And to me, it's a good practice.
You have had boards where you don't even know about, just like the BZA. I mean, we had to reconstitute that whole board,
Yeah.
if you remember.
So it's challenging at best, but I think that with Jason and the ideas that we've come up with tonight and our own efforts, we can make it, better for our citizens to know what's available so that we can continue to attract new people to serve on these boards.
Yeah, but I don't think I think we need to do that, but I don't think that answered PJ's issues about new members not knowing what their responsibilities
Well,
are.
I personally think that goes back to the board. You're on the Board of Health.
Correct.
Yeah, so y'all have met since and so you feel comfortable there.
I mean,
You're getting there.
yeah, I mean, for meeting, but going in, I just showed up. I mean, I met with Kevin briefly, but I just showed up, you
I
know?
know, but
And I think they gave you a manual for it.
Yeah, they did. They sent me a manual. There's a train for me to attend. But us starting out, just trying to find these pieces and put it all together,
I know.
just seemed a little,
It's a
Well,
lot.
we can get a handbook, I think we can do a handbook and define every board, I mean, that's not hard to do. You know, we can define the responsibility for why these boards are necessary and the responsibility of boards. How many boards we got, about 20, 10?
That's these one.
2025?
Probably 20 or
Yeah.
25.
20 or 25.
It wouldn't be hard for us, at some point, maybe, we can talk about this at our retreat, just having, a handbook for the commission when they come in, and give each one a book that here about each board and what their duties are, that shouldn't be hard to do.
Well,
About 5 or 6 lines.
I need to know when they meet, where
How
they
often
meet,
they
what
meet, and how
time.
this change turned, how
and I'm gonna be quiet, but I'm thinking even the ABC board, if I'm applying for that board, Mr. McGill knows because he's probably been on it for 30 years. But if I'm brand new and I look on the website and see ABC board,
Yeah,
I don't know, what is it? When do they meet? I think that basic information
Mhm.
needs to be made public. And I just keep going back to, church used to operate kind of like this, where they know, but what if all of us
yeah.
fall off the face of the earth? I mean, who
Who
knows?
knows?
Well, the other part of that is all of us may know, but we don't constitute 1%
Right.
of people who
Who
might
need to
want to
know.
know.
Right.
And it may be that, we refer them back to whoever the chairman, like the library board. I don't think this board of commissioners can determine what the responsibility is for a library board member. They,
Well, and Leon probably has.
Something.
Something.
That he can say to us.
Something to us that.
So I think we need to
Half
find
these
out
boards
what
already
they-
have what we're looking for, which is why they can
Well,
find
we're
it.
just trying to put it in one place.
what you're looking for is an orientation.
Yeah.
That's
we
the
look
word.
for orientation. each
And
board.
consisting of the bylaws for that.
Just a
Right.
basic,
The bylaws and an orientation to any new board that you serve on should be available to anybody going on a board, whether you're a commissioner or
Or,
a citizen.
so I'll digress and we do it at the retreat.
Retreat. Because they may call us and say, what's this board about, and I'm gonna have to second guess. Now, the ABC board, what do they do? They sell whiskey. So, I don't know,
Liquor store, is that?
That's a liquor store. Yeah.
All right. Well, very good discussion. Thank you all. Okay. All right, Kevin, you ready to talk about COVID one more time today?
Yes. Okay, with it right now, we are currently at 3,184 cases since we began tracking COVID. Right now, 3,030 of which have recovered. So we have currently 90 active cases in the county. We are seeing a decline right now. So we are coming off of the holiday bump. Our holiday surge. So that's a positive change.
That's almost 100% decrease, isn't it? Weren't we?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think we were at 170.
at one point, yeah. Yeah.
That's high. Get this out of your way. With this, January 11th, we were at 191 new cases. And last week, we were at 87 new cases. So
That's good.
we are more than half of what we were at that point in time. Now, when you take that number to when you look at the 14-day trend per 100,000 population, we are still at 500 per 100,000, which still puts us in a high-risk category according to White House standards. So also last week, the state did come out and they stated that every county or every county was going to get guaranteed doses for the next 3 weeks. And every health department would get doses. What they've stated for Scotland County for the next 3 weeks, this week is the first of the 3 weeks. The health department would get a baseline of 100 doses. The hospital will get 300 doses, and the prison Scotland Correctional will get 500 doses. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that the prison has gotten doses. Before now, their healthcare nurses have actually come to the health department to get vaccination. My understanding, they have approximately 1,500 inmate capacity. So at 3 weeks, this would give them a large capacity of a large percentage of their population could be covered.
And they're paid. They give them 5 days off their sentence and $5 in their canteen account if they take the vaccine.
Really? Really, they gonna send it?
But they can't force them to take it.
It's not mandated. So I have a question.
Okay.
If you can explain the rationale of the state. The county health department, we serve the whole county.
Mhm.
The hospital, I know, is a much larger organization, beds, patients, staff, all. Seems to me like our allotment would be more since we have 35,000 people to serve, and they're serving a more targeted population. Do you understand that rationale?
Yes, because the hospital is not serving, they're not doing it. They're doing 2 clinics that they serve, but those clinics are small amounts for what their total is. In a week, 2 weeks ago, they did approximately 120 doses through their clinics for a week. But in one day on their, a week ago, last Friday, so they did 600 doses in one drive-through clinic. That was anyone who is 65 or older could get an appointment.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you do not have to be a patient. You do not have to, they do not have to be your medical home.
You don't have to be a resident of Scotland County.
No.
That's true. Or North Carolina.
Or
You
North
just
Carolina.
have to be, at this point in time, 65 and over. And I believe the number, last week, the hospital and health department when the health department didn't get any vaccine, the hospital got 100 doses of vaccine, because the state was gearing up for their mass event. And they reduced across the state the amount. The health department already had appointments scheduled out through last week and this week. And the hospital system actually had 7, well, when they got this numbers, they had over 7 weeks of appointments. So at this point in time, neither of us are taking appointments, because if we started taking appointments based on these allocations, we'd be scheduling appointments into July. So we're waiting to it. Now, the hospital did make an application and they did get an additional 300 equity doses. And what they're doing is, when they're looking across the state, when capacity exceeds the allocation, and plus there are partnerships, especially between the hospital and the health department, to reach out to it, they can get equity doses.
If I may add, the equity doses, explained to me by Greg Wood, is that the number of minorities receiving the vaccination, as you've probably seen in the news, is extremely low.
It is, yeah.
So Greg Wood has partnered with the Ministerial Alliance. And on Friday, they are doing, they allowed all of our churches, in particular the Black communities, and in the Native American communities, he split it 150 between the two.
Right.
And we were able to register people from churches.
When you got them registered.
And we have
Good.
150, and the Native Americans are turning 150.
Wonderful.
And on Friday from 2 until 5, they're going to provide vaccinations, trying to up that number to provide more.
I hope all the county churches would do that.
We reached out to all that we could, and not all responded. And of course, there are a lot of people who just, as afraid as they are of the virus, they're even more afraid of the vaccine for whatever reason.
For whatever reason, yeah. But see, churches are basically closed per se, as they usually are. I mean, they're not really open, so it must be a job to do this with so many, churches out, people are just not going to church.
When are you gonna do it, this Friday?
That's right.
That's great. I'm so
That's
glad
great
to
you
hear
can
that.
do that.
Kevin, explain something better. The capsule that the vaccine come in,
Mm-hmm.
how many out of that capsule can you administer? How many doses, how many,
Right.
how many?
We're getting the Moderna vaccine. So 1 vial of Moderna vaccine holds 10 doses. So once we puncture, it can be frozen almost indefinitely. Once it's thawed, you have 21 days to use it. Once it is punctured, so once you take the first dose out of it, you have 6 hours to use it or throw it away. And it is 10 doses per vial. Occasionally we can get an 11th dose out of it. But we are not allowed to mix vial A, vial B. If we did that, we could always get an 11th, we could always get 21 doses.
Out of 2
A
vials.
little bit here.
Out of, yeah, but
Is
we
that
cannot
100
do that.
then? Is that 100 vials?
That is 100 doses. So that would be, we would get 10 vials.
That's what I would.
That's almost nothing.
Yeah.
So if you're having an event, I'm gonna make the number simple, of 10 people scheduled and 7 show up, and you got 3 doses left, is there some way that we can get that to somebody quickly instead of spoiling those 3 doses?
So far, we have not spoiled anything because we have other people that are registered, people we know. And, we'll get on the phone. You want the vaccine? Can you be here
Yeah,
in an hour?
I just hate to think any of it was getting thrown
Yeah.
away.
No pressure.
And, so
Pressure.
Did you get?
if you go off and you hear somebody who's not 65 say, yeah, I got it. Well, because they called me at 2:00 and I could be there by 2:30. It was an issue of spoiling a dose or putting it in somebody's arm.
I'm glad y'all doing that, really.
Most of the
I'd
time,
rather you do that than throw it in the trash.
I really would.
so at least for us, if we're down into that, we're gonna do our best to do it, but the vast
I
majority.
just
of
wanna know how
time
you
it's
get on that list to call when they got something left in it. Y'all
Yeah.
have 60.
Well, I'm not saying that happens a lot.
And this kind of goes back to Mr. McFadden, but why wouldn't you be on because I mean, you're about as community facing as there is and.
You know what is interesting? I was gonna bring it up, but I didn't know how. I got a call today telling me in another county to come take it because they're giving it to preachers for that same reason. So I'm
Visiting to see it
Yeah.
and.
If you get the opportunity, go take it.
Take it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell
I
you
just would have
that
thought you would have been on that.
no.
if that information gets out, the state will be having a call with wherever you're getting it from. And the amount of doses that they're gonna get going forward are probably going to drop.
Even if you can, for my own sake, and I emailed you about it, you kind of explained it. Like a lot of our officers, were complaining that they were not in that, and they went to other counties and were able to get it.
And with that, the state has been very clear that they've heard of isolated events where counties had started. Some of it is they found out that certain, they got some officers, but they hadn't gone full scale. But the state has been very clear for the last 2 weeks that the entire state, it is the intent that the entire state go to phase 3 at once. If it's a situation where a county runs out of 65-year-olds who want the vaccine, they said, give them a call and let them know up front, and they'll have that conversation with them. But no, I've had some very interesting conversations with people who have gotten it, and the state is very serious
Yeah, I have
about
following the phases.
following the phases.
Yeah, I had a conversation early on about the non-medical first responders, and that's what, and Kevin and I talked about it, and we don't have the authority to overrule the governor and Mandy Cohen. But again, I know that it's being done in other places, and it just creates
It does.
difficulty that really I wish wasn't there. Even if I agree, I can't change it, so.
There was one county up in the Piedmont has been vaccinating teachers for.
I know they want kids to go back to school, but teachers are in third. I'm glad I'm not in charge.
With this, there will most likely be, they will either halt or there will most likely be ramifications. So, now, one thing, and because the health department and the hospital, we meet twice a week now virtually. Had one today, we'll have another meeting again Thursday, just talking about it. Right now, we're talking about what we're going to be doing in 3 weeks. Looking ahead, looking at what we can do about mass events, either small, 200-300 doses, or even if it's possible, if we could do a 1,000 dose event somewhere. We're looking at that mix of partnering together to move ahead. Also looking, just to be honest about this is my concept, and I've shared it in the health department, I've shared it with the hospital. Unless the amount of vaccine significantly changes, when we get ready to go to phase 3, the state did state that they would try to give notice of when we wanted to go to when they wanted to go to phase 3, so we could move statewide. But right now they have no concept of when that's going to be. But when we do that, at least at the health department, will be prioritizing among phase 3. each county can come up with a prioritization inside of a category. So phase 3 are essential workers. So in that, public safety our law enforcement, jailers, those would be the first of phase 3. Then we'd probably go to school teachers. And that's where the health department is most likely going to be focusing its effort as we go into phase 3. We're also waiting because phase 3 is essential workers. And right now the guidance for essential workers, there are a number, law enforcement, school teachers, are specifically named. But after that, it is pretty much anybody who had to actually go to work. At that point in time, that's everybody with a job. If you could work from home, that's wonderful. But if you had to go somewhere, the state is trying to figure out how to come out with additional guidance. And if we tried to do first appointments at that point in time without a prioritization, law enforcement would get there very haphazard. Schools would never be vaccinated. So as we move forward, when phase 3 is going to be there, the health department is most likely going to be focused on groups rather than opening to the community at the beginning.
Kevin, let me ask you a question. Whenever you go to the next phase, I know that when you went to the 65 and older, there was a massive flood of phone calls that the county was not able to handle.
Yes.
Have you made any plans for the next phase and how you're going to deal with that influx of people wanting to have contact? Can you do it in manners other than just telephone?
Yes, we've actually developed it, and then when everybody stopped taking appointments, we've got it ready. But I have an electronic form that anyone in this room, I could send it to you, and you could fill out. It's all the information that we need to key into CVMS. That is the state's vaccine management system. We send it to you. It's collected. The health department has it. I actually sent a copy of it today to the hospital, so that as we continue to go off or look to do additional of these these clinics, like we could have sent it, they could have sent it to the Ministerial Alliance. So at that point in time, you had somebody who could take it, who could have taken a computer, an iPhone, an iPad, whatever, and actually filled all that information out in advance. So we could have somebody register them in the state system before they ever showed up.
I think it would be good to communicate that information before you get into the next phase.
Yes.
Yes.
And then also there's got to be an apparatus, because I'm computer illiterate, or I don't have Wi-Fi, or any one of those reasons. I've got to have another mechanism by which I can do it.
And we also have that same system set up for internal use. So basically, before we were keying information directly into CVMS, and that was slower. With this, basically, we can have those same people keying directly into CVMS, but they'll be doing the database. So now when that happens, and I was planning on doing it last week, but basically when that happens, we will most likely be shutting down the library and Parks and Recreation, because they will be handling our phone bank, and they will be keying into a database, and then that information will be loaded into the state system, because you have to be certified. You have to be registered to be able to key into CVMS. And right now there's just a massive backlog, because every medical provider wants to be in that system.
It's a massive task.
It is.
but
And it's only gonna get more complicated.
it's only gonna get more complicated. From what the numbers you're looking at, you're gonna get to a point here in 2 weeks, or you're probably already there with some people who are looking for their second shot.
Next, a hospital started giving out second shots this week, I believe. We'll be giving out second shots next week.
And that's all gonna come from the same allocation.
No, the vaccine, there is no difference. First shot, second shot, none whatsoever. But from a tracking perspective, the state is sending us first dose allocations and then second dose allocations.
So these are
So-
first dose allocations.
These are first dose allocations. Last week, we got 400 second dose allocations.
So you'll get an allocation to do the second doses for all the people that you
Yes.
did, okay?
Why are we told that the second dose has more in it than the first dose? The
I
doctors told me that.
don't know.
That's.
And they said, because I was asked, it said the second dose most likely will make you have a temperature, or you'll have more side effects from the second dose than you're gonna have from the first.
I've read that too, but I still have read that they're the same that they're the same compound. I don't know why the difference is in the side effects, but I've read that too. Yeah,
I've seen some people who have actually posted on Facebook. They've
I have
had
too.
that.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not pretending to be a doctor or pretending to stay at Holiday Inn or anything else. My understanding of this is because, especially now, if you've had COVID before, you may have a more severe reaction to the first shot. If you've not had COVID, your body adapts and starts building up antibodies in the first shot. In your second shot, basically your body is ready for what it sees as a virus, so it fights harder. So your body is just going through the natural response cycle to an infection. So that's why, you get fevers, because your body's heating up to fight the virus. You feel tired because it's using energy to fight the virus. That's not there, but that's my very limited understanding of why there's a difference in reaction time.
You can be a doctor in your next career.
I know you haven't gotten into the details of it, but I'm just over here thinking, so when you get to like the school,
Mhm.
is that gonna be school staff or just separate teachers or?
Right now, I've already been working with the central office. They did send out a survey to all school staff, custodians to teachers, bus drivers, all staff. And we have a response for everyone we got about 800 responses back, and it was yes or no, you're interested. So we have the information for everyone in the school system, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to go off and give it to your teachers and not give it to your cafeteria workers.
Will school nurses help to administer, or
Yes.
just, they will? That'll help you all out.
And because we've had that conversations, then talk about that. And also, we are also looking to do a planning, especially if we get a large mass event, 1,000 doses, 2,000 doses. We are also planning the potential for using a mass drive-through at the high school.
For community or for school staff?
That would be for the community. And we'll be planning as we get closer whether or not we will do schools, and this will depend on vaccine availability. If we would just go to the high school and do all school staff, or if we're only getting 100 doses a week, we'd wind up going to this school, then that school, then that school. So it depends on
What you get.
what we get.
Gotcha.
We have no control over that.
I did ask if there's a possibility when we get into phase 3, if we wanted to do all of our teachers, could that be considered a mass event that we can apply for extra doses for? And the state said, basically, that would not be denied. But then again, when we're going into phase 3, everybody's going to want.
Mhm.
So, but we still have time. And again, I think the state mentioned, I think they would like to give us at least 2 weeks' notice before we go into phase 3. But I would be surprised if we go into phase 3 before the end of the month.
Yeah, I would too, yeah. All right,
Do we, one last bit, do we have any idea how many people over 65 who haven't been vaccinated want to be vaccinated?
I'm not sure how many people we have on our waiting list at this point in time. And the state is trying to, on a macro scale, the state is trying to figure that out, because that information is going to determine when they're looking to shift.
Yeah. Okay.
all right.
Okay. Now, with that being said, going on to the health department at their January meeting did come out of closed session, and they voted to extend an offer to a candidate. Once all pre-employment processes are complete, the health department, the Board of Health will make a press release or make an announcement on it. But that's just where we are at this point in time.
Be sure to get that state approval qualification.
That was done up front. So
Well, we
Yeah.
had that happen before. too.
yes. So, but just so you know, that is currently in process. Also, as I think I sent out an email sometime back, Roland Hammond is retiring effective February 15th. That will be his last day. And this is something that we've been planning on for some time. He is actually, Roland has been consistent in keeping us in the loop on his plans. As a matter of fact, I think he intended on retiring last fall, but due to this current pandemic, he decided to extend that, but it's just to the point he was ready to retire. But because we had notice, and because it's been part of the goals of the commissioners to have a continuation plan, Robert Sampson has been our technically, he's our deputy EMS supervisor, but he has been in that position and learning from Roland for a number of years. And the emergency manager director, emergency management positions have increased. The additional time is, Robert has become more of a, mute somebody.
Is you feeding back?
Yeah. Emergency management has become more of an issue. So Robert Sampson has been running, basically doing a lot more of the day-to-day operations for EMS. But with that, so we are going to be, that's the reason we did the internal recruitment for emergency management director or EMS supervisor. Robert Sampson is stepping up. So we are going to be recruiting for Robert Sampson's position. So it's currently listed as a deputy EMS supervisor. And with that, ultimately, we're going to be looking at probably a restructure in their upcoming budget of the position, actually forming the position into emergency management director, but then having most likely EMS and 911 centers under those. So we are going to be recruiting externally for an EMS supervisor. We have sent the applications out to RCC and to UNCP. They both have nursing programs. Also, RCC does continuing ed for EMS programs as well. And also we are sending information out to everyone. So this is a position that we, if any of you have contacts in your networks that would have someone with EMS and supervisory position experience, or have someone who is an RN who also has EMS experience, we would please invite them to consider applying.
Kevin, how far have we walked down the street in violation with that last appointment? What I'm talking about, you handpicked,
Yes, sir.
that's a violation. You didn't give everybody this opportunity to.
It is part of our county policy that we can do internal appointments, internal advertisements, and with that, we did apply when we opened it up for anybody inside any current employee can do it for 10 days, can apply. But with this one, because this has been a very specific, we've been very specific about grooming him for that position.
I mean, they didn't have, you didn't have to do an application and put it out there for everybody.
No, we did not
do that.
Right, we did not do that, and it is part of the policy. We can do internal we can do an internal only application policy.
Well, where is that in the policy, so I know where to read it, because I didn't know. I mean, I know and I don't know. Okay, first of all, I want, please start announcing these openings. I did not know that Rawlings was leaving until maybe a month later, because it wasn't, if you would announce it in the meeting, and let us know. For instance, Ms. Patterson, it never was announced that she was leaving, so we need to know. All of us don't have, don't talk to to administrators every day, and we may not know these things, and so if we knew that he was leaving, it would give us better insight into how we're gonna go about replacing it. Now, I want to see what this internal thing is, because we got to do better. We are almost black and white and Indian and whatever breakdown in this county. We just don't have enough black people employed as supervisors in this county, and we got to do better. We're all embarrassed by it.
Say, no, if you don't have,
Well,
you don't have.
We have a one. So this is inexcusable. I mean, why is this happening? What is causing this? And is this internal thing that you're talking about causing this problem? Because I didn't know he was leaving till a month later.
And with this one, we did not notify anybody until he actually put in until he applied with the state retirement system. We've had conversations that he was past eligible and that we had a continuation plan for him. But with that, until he actually put in his paperwork to retire, it's not a situation that we could guarantee that he,
But some commission knew about it, but I didn't know about it. Carol, you knew about it, didn't you?
I got an email from Kevin.
I know, the email came later, but it was not announced in the meeting.
no, he put in his paperwork after the January
Right.
meeting. So after he put in his paperwork, we gave him several days to announce to his employees that he was going to retire. I think that was he put in his paperwork on a Tuesday or Wednesday. The email went out the following Monday, so he had an opportunity to notify his employees directly.
But
I
we
think-
maybe needed, excuse me, say this, I'm gonna stop. We maybe need to take a look at that internal policy you're talking about, because if this is the reason why we can't get minorities hired in this county as supervisors, maybe we need to change it. So maybe we need to take a look at that policy and see if it's working for us or if it's hindering us from doing what we need to do. Because we all should be embarrassed. One black person as supervisor in this county, and he's
don't
not
have
even
that.
hired
They
yet.
don't have that. You tell me who.
I mean, he's getting ready to be hired if he passes everything.
From the health department, if they hire him, if he gets.
But this is ridiculous in this whole county. Half black, half white, Indian, whatever. And we can't even hire a supervisor.
Let me, if I may, Ms. Golson, for me, I don't think the issue is knowing, because from what Ms. Patterson is saying is even just telling us that Roland was leaving, I think the bigger concern is the policy that's in place that it already has a continuation plan set up. And I think as a board, it probably would help if we knew that plan before the positions even come up, because apparently the plan's already in place. And I thank Kevin for sending that information out. But I've been looking at it I think we got like 340 employees, and only 93 of those are African American at all. And as you stated, there are none, from what I've seen, that are in higher ranking positions. And if there's a continuation plan in place and they're not already at the table, then there's no way for them to ever be in a leadership role. And I do think that is concerning. For our county to be as diverse as it is, and I know that when we, set out to hire people, we want the most qualified. I was a part of a caucus election the other day for the Democratic Party, and their conversation was, we want to make sure we get a person who's qualified, and because we want diversity, in one position we'll make sure that it's an African American, and in another one we'll make sure that there's consideration given to someone who's of a certain age. So I know you can't make color or race a qualification, but I do think it needs to be made to be a consideration as we move forward with hiring. And the other part is, from what I've noticed with our county leaders, Roland, for example, Roland's been in that position for some 30 years. So those positions don't come open often. And so if we don't make that a conscious effort, we'll never make any progress, in that area.
Well, I think that Robert Sampson falls into the category of a minority. If not
I'm talking
mistaken.
about black, not just Indian. I'm talking black. We don't have any black leaders who are in our high-ranking administration. None. We almost don't have any working.
Well, we have, but we don't now.
We don't have
We
any.
haven't had any, Carol. When I came to this board, got reelected 6 years ago, I asked then, after Mr. Massey retired, how many black supervisors did we have? We had none.
I don't know what we have at DSS for the health department. I know that we had Kristen Patterson at the health department. I know we had an African American at Parks and Rec for a while.
A mean one. You say a African American.
You say we had two with Christian, when Christian Patterson was here. We had two, you said?
I just said we had Kristen Patterson at
And
one
who
time.
else?
And we had,
Curtis Holloman was out. right?
Chris Holloman at DSS. We had
Kurt
an African American at
Holloman,
Parks and Recreation.
Curtis Holloman. Yeah.
All at one time. So it's been better. It's never been good. Don't misunderstand me. And it's not good now. So, but I think it's the recruitment. I think we probably need to maybe have our HR department look at how we recruit applicants. Because you have a pool of applicants and that's what you've got. But unless we change the way we recruit and throw a wide open net and look at how other counties are trying to recruit and increase their diversity, then we can get the applicants that we can choose from that will help us bring that level of representation up in our supervisors.
Well, it's our fault too. The black commissioners, we haven't put forth the effort to help you all find these applicants. And this is a thing that,
Well, it's not known until it happens.
yeah, we got to know
Like
beforehand.
like
Now,
the
Hope
situation-
County got half and half, I'm
Sam.
sure. How is Hope County can get half and half? Is it because they're near a military base?
Well, I don't think it's our
County.
job to do recruitment as
I don't know.
commissioners.
But I know I'm saying that we're gonna have to find resource people we're gonna have to contact some of these black colleges or whatever and get, you know,
Yeah,
try
you got them here, but they don't get the opportunity.
It has to be an agreement, I think, amongst this
They're here,
board
but they don't get the opportunity.
and then to our administration that that is a concern and a need that needs to be met. Once that's done, Kevin can do it.
I agree.
But I think we all have to agree that it is a concern, that it is an issue, because I don't think you have to go to college. I think you have people in our county who are very qualified for a lot of positions, but they don't get an opportunity. And you hear things like, you know, you gotta be friends with this one to get hired by the county, or you gotta go to this church to get hired by the county, all the conversations that I'm hearing. And we've got, I think, agree as a board that we're not satisfied with that. And it can't just be the black board members. It's gotta be us as a board that we see the need to diversify our leadership in our county. And then we have that conversation with our administrator and we move forward.
I agree with that.
With that, and personally, I can't disagree with what you're saying. But then again, from a legal aspect, I can only hire someone who applies. And also with legal requirements, not creating a liability for it, I cannot and I will not go off and put a priority of any race into it because there are legal prohibitions against it.
we know you can't do that.
Now, for recruitment, if there are additional things that we can do to go into minority communities for recruitment, I absolutely am in favor of that. But I can't go off and on a point scale, go off and say, well, we need this race, that race. That would create a liability for the county.
Well, we wouldn't expect you to do that, but I'm still gonna look at this internal policy because if the people not already in place, how can they be promoted? You see what
How
I'm
long has that
saying?
policy been in place? Do you know, Ralph?
That's been part of our personnel policy for years, and it's just basically someone can be promoted without having to go through an external hiring process.
We will never get a supervisor like that, because every time they're not in the, they're not there. Minorities are not in that, they're not already there in most instances, so how are they gonna be promoted?
I like Jason put that on the agenda for retreat
Retreat, the
discussion.
internal policy, whatever it's called.
Because like I said, it's time for the end.
Is he gonna remain the ME?
Yes.
So this guy's he got a boss, then he's not really a
He's gonna have 3
supervisor.
levels.
So what?
He's gonna be he's medical examiner now.
He is now.
Yes.
One of 3, he one of 3.
Yes.
Who are we talking about?
Robert Sands.
Robert Sands, okay.
Corey, it's another guy, but they all come to this friend home. It's,
Yeah.
Corey Ball.
Corey Baldwin, one of them, Rick Sampson, one of them, and it's another guy. I can't remember. He knew my first time reading.
Well, I think this is something also that we can discuss at our retreat. If this board wants to adopt a overriding philosophy, like you were saying, that we're committed to having diversity represented in our management positions in county government, and that we direct our manager to pursue mechanisms to how we can recruit and attract more minorities to apply. That's really the limit to which we can do and stay within the boundaries of the law as far as how I understand it. But
That's
we can
correct.
certainly do that. That's a big statement to
Yes.
make. And I think that at our retreat, we can talk about it and see if that's what we want to do and make that commitment and let it be known. And it's a statement to the community that we're doing this.
Well, you're giving guidance not only to the manager who makes a lot of these decisions, but also the health board, the DSS board.
That's right. Because the health board hires the health director, Kevin Patterson does it.
Right,
And the DSS board hires the
DSS.
DSS director, Kevin Patterson does it. We have no hands on either one of those two positions.
But we can provide ethic training, we talked about that training to let them know that this is a need, so that's why they do that training
But
every
we
year,
do
to supervise.
No board of commissioners in the state of North Carolina hires a health director or a DSS director, period.
And I understand and I appreciate the conversation of a statement.
Yeah.
But again, I think it goes beyond putting a statement out for the community. It's a real heart-to-heart conversation
Yeah.
that we have to have and really have an understanding, we've got to have that same understanding with our county manager. And then because it's an understanding, then because Kevin is a part of all of that. He's a part of Board of Health. I was there. I know he is.
Yeah.
Part of DSS. If that is an understanding, then we as a board would expect that Kevin would then allow that same understanding to be trickled throughout other departments in the county. Because to put a statement out doesn't satisfy me, and then you still don't hire anybody.
Reverend, I think what you need is a policy which gives him guidance.
Yeah.
A little stronger than an understanding. I mean, a written policy that whatever it is the board wants to do, that gives him guidance. And of course, ultimately, he makes the hiring decision himself, but he would want to do it within the parameters of what you have in your policy.
Okay,
Can we do
that's
that
something
for
we
the
can
retreat?
think about at retreat.
It could be done.
These are things that we need to do at retreat.
Now, I assume that once the health director is hired, prior to you being interim health director, you didn't go to health director meeting, you didn't go to the health department, the
No.
board of health meetings. You just let them do the, yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
And let me ask you this, if I can go back on Board of Health. Has the employee accepted the offer yet? Or they haven't accepted it still?
Yes.
They have. Okay, I didn't understand that when you made that before. Okay.
I was trying to be intentionally vague.
Oh, okay.
I think he's still trying to be intentional.
I kind of saw something. I wasn't sure. I thought by now he should, or that person should.
Yeah, but I know I think this is an important conversation. Let me ask you this. Is there any other position that we currently have that the next in line has already been decided?
Right now, the next department head the other department head that is eligible to retire is our 911 director.
Really?
Yes.
Hmm.
And he currently has an assistant that has been in position since within a year of us opening the 911 center.
I think Robert was discussed and the decision was made at some time that he was the successor.
That has been discussed.
With this other person?
That has been discussed, and that has been discussed at previous retreats.
Yeah, I mean,
Robert or the 911 director?
Robert,
Actually, both the emergency management director and the 911 director positions have been discussed when we were discussing continuation plans.
yeah, I know that the continuation of Roland to Robert was discussed among the members of the board.
I remember that,
Yeah.
but I don't remember any other one.
You don't, okay.
But it may, I mean, are you saying that other one occurred too?
Yes.
All right.
Now, we had physicians in there, and of course, it was that at that point in time, well, when we had that, then it was, no one has made any official announcement yet, but that's the next person who would be eligible.
So then is no hopes of getting a minority in that position there, because it's already installed that person won't be promoted up. So, see, we're fighting against ourselves, seem like, you know? how can we ever get it?
Is there anybody else? Is there any other position that has?
No other, I'm not aware of any other department head that's eligible, that is near eligible to retire. And honestly, those are the ones that I get involved with.
You know, when you start talking about specific individuals or personnel issues, you know, we had the conversation about not going into closed session on
Mhm.
general policies discussions, which you cannot, but if we start bleeding into specific individuals and get too much into
I'll
it.
withdraw.
Okay.
Well, one thing that can be done is, especially when you're talking about a department head position, we can say that they're not eligible for internal hire process or an internal application process, that they have to be an external application.
Okay.
You know, now with that, we're still going to try to develop the continuation plan. Because what happens when they're on vacation? What happens when they hit the lottery and they just don't show up again?
We got to have.
You know, there's that plan, but at that point in time, because it still will take a month to go through the hiring and have somebody ready, or a month and a half or whatever. So we'd still have a continuity plan. But saying that we would not use an internal hiring process for a department head. At that point in time, that means any department head position is automatically open to the public.
It won't be fair. What if the next person in line is a black? And we've been waiting 25 years, and the 30-year veteran say I'm retired, then that policy in effect.
At,
That ain't gonna be fair.
at that point in time, it would be open to the public. And I will advise, I am very intentional on the personnel policy. Race is not an issue in hiring. Because again, legally, it cannot be. Now, we can design recruitment processes.
You hadn't done it. You could fool me, you hadn't done it. Your track record speaks for yourself.
Well,
You hadn't done it.
for recruitment processes, we can reach out to targeted groups.
And I think I want us to talk about this in detail and think over it for the retreat, because I wouldn't want us to use that policy or refrain from using that policy. Because I don't know Mr. Robert. He may be the best person for the job.
Good guy.
I don't know him.
Good guy.
But I don't think it's fair
No problem.
that when that position opens, then Robert automatically gets it. And there may be someone out there who is as good, but they don't get that opportunity, and maybe an African American. Just might happen to be. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't. I know that as unintentional as we can be about making sure race is not a factor, sometimes it can be done and we not really recognize it.
I understand that.
And it looks like, and I'm just saying this as a person of color, it looks like when you look at our hiring practices, it just looks like there's an intent to make sure that we're not hiring. And I don't know if African Americans are even applying,
Right.
but from where I see it, it looks as if there none. I mean, nobody.
And with that, if we bringing this to the retreat, we can get some, because we have demographic information is collected during the hiring process when you apply. But the first phase of that application, all that demographic information is stripped out, even to the point you don't even, the initial screen, if you're not making it to an interview,
You don't know.
whoever, you don't even have a name. Just to make sure that we're using the job data as much as possible. But we can provide you with the demographics of the applicants for the last several external job applications.
You get 10 applicants and you look at them, you don't know, you know their gender, I guess.
No,
No,
not.
their assignment number, and that's really about all you know. And then you start looking through qualifications. You don't know the race, you don't know the gender, you don't know their age. You don't know if they're gonna come to work and work a year and retire.
Okay, let's do this at the tree and get Susan in here, but she'll be there, right?
Yes.
And let her explain this personnel kind of thing with the application where our problem is, how we will know. Okay, I mean.
But not to cut you off, but this policy that you're talking about, or getting it created, what is our process for creating such policies?
Well, I think the board needs to determine in its collective wisdom of the seven of you, what your focus wants to be. And the reason I suggested a policy, Reverend, was so that there would be something in writing to guide not only Kevin, but whoever his successor might be. Not to dictate, as to who he chooses, but to at least give him guidance as to what the board wants to. Because under statute, he has the authority to make the hire. It's his decision, but I'm certain he or whoever his successor might be would want to do something in accord with the desires of the board. The hire in most situations, not the health board, not the
He
BSS.
wouldn't think about that.
So,
If he wanted to stay on with the county, he would look at his boss. I mean, it's business,
well,
it's
that's,
fact.
that is the,
Yeah, it's fact.
that is the, board's authority. Did that answer the?
You did,
question?
yes, sir.
So you can help us, help the policy committee, that will come under the policy committee, right?
Well,
Set
you
up.
started there if you choose. to.
Yes, we can give us what we want in the policy, and I guess, with Carol, when you go for your policy committee.
So refer to them after your.
Yeah, after.
retreat.
Yeah, after the retreat.
And I'm gonna tell you, from hiring tens of thousands of people, you can write all the policy you want, you can do all you want, but if you don't focus on it,
It won't happen.
then it won't happen.
That's true.
It's gotta be intentional.
Yeah, yes, to some extent, it's got to be intentional.
Now, y'all have some fine people in the county, we're not saying, we're not saying that anybody did a bad job of hiring, you got some wonderful supervisors, department heads. I like them, I'm very impressed, but it's just that we get a lot of feedback from our constituents, you see, and they get this attitude that they don't hire certain people, that kind of thing. And it's our responsibility as commissioners to, listen to our voters and what they see.
Mhm.
And this is why we're under pressure, and we probably put a little bit on you too.
No, I understand exactly where you're coming from.
Okay, Kevin, you want to update on the monument committee?
Okay, Monument Committee, of course, our last facilitator withdrew. David Richardson with the COG has agreed to be a facilitator for the group, and he is scheduled to meet with the chairman of that group tomorrow morning, I believe, to plan their next steps forward for their next meeting. So they should
haven't
be
met
done.
at all since November.
November was their last meeting.
They've met twice.
I believe so.
Twice or three times. Did the third meeting cancel or three?
Uh,
Well, I think they had 3 meetings scheduled. I think one of the meetings wasn't actually noticed. So it was a fairly informal, no action type meeting.
And I know the December meeting was canceled.
Yeah.
So if they're able to meet, we'll see if they're able to meet in February, but
I think they had,
honestly, I leave that up to to the chairman.
they had an organizational meeting. They were gonna have a second meeting and it sort of got sidetracked because of the lack of notice. And then the second meeting got postponed. They did have a third meeting.
Is our retreat gonna be strictly for the budget, is a budget retreat?
That's generally a significant portion of it. But part of it would be whatever items you want to have on it.
Okay, all right. And you want us to give you suggestions, like we usually do?
Yes. One thing, and I believe an article was in the newspaper last week on this. With the most recent fire inspection, all the fire departments are inspected regularly. The last 2 fire departments received a 6, so currently all fire districts are at a 6 rating, which means all the residential properties are getting the most discount they can for fire tax on their homeowners insurance. So I believe that should be effective April.
I call Daniel Shaw all the time about it, and I got to pay my insurance, this week. And he said this don't come in effect until April.
Right.
And the insurance went up like crazy. But I'm happy, I'm really happy about this. And this really makes me happy, despite, this a decrease in our fire rating.
And this is one of the things that was part of the intention, or this was the primary intention, or one of the primary intentions for the increase in the fire tax. In addition to coming up with a equipment replacement cycle, but this was the number one financial goal.
What amazes me that we got a volunteer fire department and how effective, how good they are, you know what I mean? And we're not paying any salaries for this, you know, because the city of Lawrence pays for theirs, right? The city of Lawrence
Yes.
pays for their fire. But
Most
we got a volunteer fire, you
But
know, it
nationwide,
works.
most firemen are volunteers
Yeah, yeah,
Until you hit urban areas.
until you hit a big urban area.
urban area.
So did we decide on the 24th?
Not yet.
Okay, all right.
And now's it. And again, I call this budget retreat because this is normally just the kickoff, trying to figure out where we are through the first half of the year, first 7 months of the year. And then what are some of the budgetary goals, but also other items that you want discussed. And I know you came up with at least 2 from this meeting. And I've been taking notes on them also, so. But if there are other items that any of the commissioners would like to add or have more information at for this meeting, if you'll let me know. And the recommendation is for February 24th, and we do it at 9 o'clock in this room.
I remember times we used to go, well, years past, did the county ever go away for their meetings? I know the school board would be. So.
Not since I've been here.
Yeah, that's what we have.
What about the school?
Is there a particular reason for that Wednesday and not another day?
Just looking at
Hmm?
other conflicts.
Would
but-
that Thursday be feasible?
We gotta go to.
No, I know what you want.
I don't have class on Wednesdays.
We got, when that thing goes.
That's on Friday. It's on that Friday.
I mean, I can make it work if it's, I mean, just,
That's entirely up to the board.
where y'all going?
We're going
Oh,
Friday,
it's
26th.
26 on Friday.
But if you're asking,
Is Thursday work for you all? That Thursday?
Either one's fine with me.
Either one.
What's the 24th,
The
Thursday?
25th?
24th is Wednesday.
That's
25th
like
is
your prayer meeting night.
No, it's during the day, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah,
9
I
o'clock in
have
the morning.
class that on Monday and Wednesday.
Well, I'm free, I'm retired, I'm free all the time, except for doctor's appointments. So I try to make a doctor's appointment, so you want the 25th?
If we could do the 25th, that would, I mean, I can make
It's fine
25th
with me,
work,
25th is fine with me, I don't know.
It's all right with me, I guess.
but you never know.
I can do the
Just as
25th.
good as that.
Okay, thank you all,
25th is good, it's good for me.
at 9 a.m.
25th at 9 a.m.
25th.
And how long do we normally run?
Starts at 9 and we're generally finished by 2.
Oh.
And that's the short one.
Yes, sir.
We do the long one later
We
on.
have we had 2 days?
A lot of times, yes, we've had it where it's been 2 days.
Yeah, that's the short one. The long one's later.
9 o'clock.
I thought like a 90
I
level.
Yeah, I thought I was.
In other words, you want to go back to the 24th, don't you?
And on Saturday morning.
And you show up after your.
Then you gotta leave class. You're right, Ms. Golson, on the school board, we used to travel.
Yeah, what is Pinehurst Country Club, what's that called, Country Club, that big old fabulous place in Pinehurst? That was one of
Country
our,
Club in North Carolina.
It won't have
yeah,
any
that's
more.
where we have one of our retreats at, and down to the beach, and we traveled, God.
Holly Inn.
Oh,
That's what we used to be at Holly Inn with the city council.
yeah, that Holly, okay.
Okay, and that is
That's all we have. All
all I
right,
have.
move on to commissioner news. Anybody, start across the way?
I do have a couple things, I think. One is happy birthday to Ms. Golston.
You
Today is
beat
her
me
birthday.
to
Oh,
it.
did I? I'm sorry.
That's
It's
okay.
her birthday, and I did want to say happy birthday
Thank
to
you, thank you, it's an interesting day, thank you.
29 is a big one. ain't it?
Yeah, 29 is really hard.
her. And, actually, the others I talked about already. Oh, I do, and I don't know if this should be closer or not, but I got a letter from someone about some excessive tax or something. I think you were in it and you were in it. And I sent it over to you all. Did you all get that email? Someone Aberdeen Road?
I got it from you forwarding it to me.
Okay.
And I've sent it on to the tax department to figure out what was going on.
Countryside Diner,
No, Nature's Earth.
okay.
And I meant to pull back up because if they're talking about, allocation of taxes in their HUD's closing statement,
I think that's what it was.
if it's in their
that's what
HUD
I-
closing statement, that would be an issue in between them and the closing attorney.
Okay, well, I forwarded it to you as well, but I got another email today. I hadn't had a chance to look at it,
Never
but
seen that one.
I hadn't looked at it either, but
The information that I reviewed initially appeared that someone had made an error some number of years ago.
that's what I
Had a
had.
closing statement.
Oh, really?
Right.
It seems like they're trying a lot, because weren't they the ones that had the exception filed with us last month, the month before?
Yeah.
They filed for the, I'm calling it an exception, that's not what it is, but them and another company had filed, the Dollar Generals had filed, that same month, we got the same tax request.
Right.
Drop the property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that one based on the pandemic?
Well, that's what they said.
Yeah.
Business personal property, that's what.
Yes.
They were talking about the tax from last year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it just seems like maybe they're grasping straws.
If you just forward that, I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Let me ask, Kevin,
Other than-
has our tax collection been, how has it been since this pandemic?
I've got to figure out exactly where we are, through January. First quarter was not, I think it was not terribly off, but I've not found out where we are in this last quarter. Because really it's that last couple of weeks in December, first 2 weeks of January.
Yeah.
I just got to get that information. And that will be something that we have specifically for the retreat, looking at property tax collection rates as well as sales tax collection rates.
Okay. Both should probably be lower, huh? I'm sure the sales probably low.
Sales taxes,
It's up.
Really?
They're up.
statewide, they're positive. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're as up as much, but, we're gonna do, it's gonna be an interesting comparison.
The only other things I had, Madam Chair, though, was just Board of Health. He's already shared that we have met, and I'm excited, hopeful that all things will work out for the new health director. Fire Commission will be meeting on February the 10th. According to the email they sent, they haven't met in a while because of COVID and all, but Fire Commission is meeting. I had a liaison committee, but I'm gonna leave that for Mr. Gibson, and then the deal for what I just talked about. There was one other thing, but I can't remember what it was. So that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. All right.
DJ mentioned, the liaison committee, Rick Singletary has contacted me and wants to know when we can get together to meet. And so I was hoping, Eddie, that you and Commissioner Gibson and I might get together for just a minute or two after tonight, and let's suggest a couple of dates for them when we will meet. Also would like, maybe on the budget retreat, for us to have a brief session about the liaison committee and kind of some direction from the group as a whole as to what we want to try to accomplish with that group this year.
What you said, Reverend Gibson, is that you were on the other side of it, and now we got you, so maybe you can fight for us.
You did that too.
Well, yeah, I did a couple of years, 6 years ago. No, 6, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, I don't know.
Commissioner Fair?
I don't
Anything?
have anything.
Betty? Well, the only thing I was gonna do was say happy birthday, and that's been done. So I hope it's been a good day for you, and, now that we have heard from all the commissioners, I will,
Is John still with us?
I'm sorry, John, what do you have to say? John, you still with us?
He is not.
He is not. So, at this time, we need a motion to, go into closed session. Pursuant to discuss litigation with the county attorney pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3, to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body in regards to Owens versus Scotland County and McDougal versus Kersey et al. Motion,
Motion.
you got a motion here, do I have a second?
Second.
Second motion, no second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like so. We are now in closed session.
May I ask you a question, Jason?
Hang on just a second. Let me stop this stream.
This conference is now